Welcome to the Battle Buddy Podcast with Keith McKeever.
And welcome back to another episode of the Battle Buddy Podcast. This one is our 4th of July special. I've got an awesome guy here who's also giving back to the veteran community in many different ways, and that's what we're here to talk about today, is giving back to the veteran community and empowering people and just being a good person. Right, Joe?
Trying, right? Our logo does say "Don't be nasty" on it, right?
Yeah, well, you shouldn't be nasty, that's for sure. We've all met a few of those people in the world. But go ahead and tell us a little bit about, your story growing up and your military journey.
Absolutely. I think just like every other, well, I won't say every, for my journey to the military was, it was one of escape, right? Like I grew up in the southeast end of Houston, but not to say that there wasn't a lot of love and people didn't care for me, because they did. Like, there was so many, like, now that I think back and I let go of like false beliefs, right, about that and not knowing what I didn't know. I never felt a lack of love growing up, but I just didn't have any purpose. I didn't know there was really no direction. And I think the example I always used to get back then was, you just try something else. Just move on. Don't even think about it. Just go to the next thing. And a lot of times I think you got to face some of these things. But anyway, so that what got me to the military, because my whole life was like trying something new, get disappointed, not really looking at why there was a disappointment in it, and then just go, okay, well, screw that. I'm going to do something else. And
lack of focus and purpose kind of thing.
That is how I got into the Marine Corps. Like, my plan was to be a Coast Guard rescue swimmer. And just like everything else, like I kept trying to go, and it just wasn't working out. And I was like, screw that. And then the Marine recruiter was like, hey, come over here and talk to me for a minute. That Coast Guard guy, man, he never shows up. Man, I'm here. I'll help you. We have rescue swimmers in the Marine Corps. So then I was like, yeah, man, I'll totally do this. Let's do it. And then I joined the Pool E program in I want to say it was like early January, but I wasn't going to go until December. And then just like everything else, like I actually wasn't. And then I was starting to contemplate not going because my martial arts career was getting really good. Like, see, I'm going to drop nuggets. People are going to be like, martial arts, what?
Yeah, that's a new one to me.
I started as a young kid, here in Houston. And then, like I said, a lot of stuff was like, try something new and go somewhere else. So I grew up with a lot of different family, right? And then just before high school, my mom and we started to have a relationship again. And I was like, all right, I'll move with you to Colorado. So I literally for high school, I left everything in Houston, went to Colorado for high school. And I also started doing martial arts then. So I started I didn't start early, I started later, but my freshman year, I started that. And it was a really cool school. We're jumping around, but that's okay. My story.
It's all good.
My story.
It's your story. Absolutely.
Why it's my story. What's better than martial arts than America, right? And it was a mixed martial arts type of program. It was what I like to call, it was American martial arts, because the guy that taught us was like, I'm going to take a little bit of this Japanese hard style, a little bit of this Korean taekwondo, some of this, some of that. Let's just do the best at everything. Because anyway, I'm not going to get too far.
That's what we do in America, right?
So anyway, so my whole high school career was either go to the Coast Guard and be a rescue swimmer, or start a martial arts studio of my own, right? I was even competing nationally. I fought in a couple of national tournaments, but anyway, that's a long story. But then something happened at a thing with our karate school, and I felt hurt, and I was like, screw that. So I told the recruiter, hey, can I go next week? So I was supposed to leave December. I ended up leaving in early September. So, I ended up going sooner than I was supposed to go. And then that's what it was. And then I just kind of found family there, right? And what better place to find a community than with other service members, because we just put everything into each other. Like, I used to think it's it's the Marine Corps, it's the Army, or it's the Navy as an organization. But really, when I started to break everything down, It's just the people, right? It's the community that we develop as service members and as veterans. So I was stuck, man, and I was hooked, and I just loved being. I loved being a Marine. I loved training Marines. I loved doing Marine stuff. When you were doing it, I'm make sure that I'm very clear on that point, right?
You wouldn't love doing it now?
What's that?
You wouldn't love doing it now? Your body wouldn't hold up anymore? No.
I would, but it's just you got to get me out there first, right? Like,
absolutely.
Look, man, I love going to the field and I love doing all the training. It was just amazing. Like when you do those kind of things as a service member, when you're doing your job like in the field doing it, it's beautiful. But it's the fact that you realize before you're going, like, hey, you got to go to the field tomorrow. So then you're thinking, God, man, I got to get all my gear ready. And it's like all of these like things. So I didn't used to like to plan to go, but once I was there, it was like, this is badass, right? This is why I joined. Like, and I was in a small boat unit in the first part of my career, which was even more super badass, right? Like envision Navy SEALs, but cooler because we were Marines.
Ooh, man, that's a tough one.
I'm kidding. Yeah. The reason I say that is like people think of Navy SEALs and you think of CRRCs, right? The Zodiac raid craft, like the little rubber boats, and you're like low profile, sneaking onto the beach. That's what I did like the first part of my career, which was super awesome.
Sounds like too much water for this airman.
Yeah. So that's what stuck, and I feel like even now that as I start to grow and I realize it's my passion is just people, and it's just building community and growing together. So yeah, that's my story. I didn't start out with soap. This is actually me. It's a collaboration, right? Which is perfect for how we met in the Warrior Council on the Vet Tribe, right? Which is all about, support, collaborate, and elevate. So Maxwell Soaps was definitely a collaboration. It was started by a buddy of mine, Max Moore, who was also he's a Navy corpsman, but we served together in Iraq. So we were just kind of different paths, and then we decided to combine and collaborate. So I really think there's an opportunity to use this soap company to spread a message and to really kind of expand bridging the community, the gaps, right? The cultural gaps, which is what my real passion is bringing veterans to truly be that next great generation, right? Like, and I think a part of it is that we haven't really figured out how to integrate ourselves back into community, and which leads us right into this have thing that you were bringing up. So I'll let you ask a few questions as we get into that, but that's my story.
We'll get into the have thing here in a minute, but I kind of want to peel back some layers of the onion, so to speak, on the soap. So where did the idea come from? Was somebody being nasty and you're like, oh, let's make a soap company for these nasty folks out there?
Again, don't be nasty, right? That's the logo. But the way I remember that is Max used to have this thing where he used to walk around and used to say, don't be nasty. Like, but he always used to talk to guys about washing their hands, right? Because it was very hygiene. Like, keep your hands clean. Especially
more important this last year,
right? Like, no wonder you guys are crapping your pants all the time. You're not washing your hands enough, and now you're putting that nasty. So he used to always do that, but it actually evolved, right? That don't be nasty is not just about cleanliness. It's evolved into it's more about participation, right? And being nasty in the military wasn't necessarily just because you're dirty. It's like you're not being a part of the team. You're not really kind of pulling your weight. You're not participating. You're not being cognizant of what others are probably going through. Like, it's just taking that whole encompassing of being a decent person, I guess.
Yeah.
Right.
We called them dirtbags in the Air Force. I don't know if that's what you guys called them or if you had a different term. But we referred to them as dirtbag airmen. Those low speed, high drag kind of guys that they're always fucking something up.
And then what I love about, okay, this is going to blow your mind. And then what I love about incorporating that into a soap, right? Because it's just a symbolic thing. Like, what I love is that you don't have to always be nasty. Like that you can literally change your legacy, your reactions and your actions by just not being nasty, right? And then I thought, man, that's kind of cool, because you take the soap, it's like you can wash it away, and all of a sudden, like you can choose to do that, and that's what I really love about putting that kind of thing with the soap, right? It's
There's a lot of symbolism there for sure.
Yeah, and not only that, like, I mean, again, there's a lot more to it, right? Like, than the soap. We can peel a little bit more onions. Like, Max was really suicidal before he started the soap, and somebody asked, "Hey, well, what do you do? Like, what can you do?" And he's like, "Well, when I was a kid growing up in Tennessee, my family made soap. Like, I know how to make soap." So he actually initially started making cold processed soap. So, like, literally back all the way, like what we do right now is a melt and pour. And the reason we're doing that is just because of the mission of the company, right? Once we start to bring on veterans, which is my end goal here, is like a production where it's like a therapeutic work, right? Like, you're getting paid to kind of feel better about yourself and to kind of grow and to transition and to do other stuff, right? Because and eventually I see that, but right now the melt and pour is easy, because you just melt it down. We add the specific ingredients that we want to use for a scent or an exfoliator, and then we just let it harden, and then we cut it into molds, or we pour it into specific molds, right? And it's just because it's fast, but there's still like processes and steps to go through it, right? You have to monitor temperature. You have to make sure your formulation is right, because even natural essential oils can burn your skin if you don't do it right. So there's, man, I feel like I'm going too much, but
no, it sounds like a
whole
heck of a process.
The process, it's a step-by-step process, which has shown, if you do a repetitive step-by-step process, it kind of helps you kind of open up. It gets you out of your own mind. And the way I look at it is, we used to clean rifles when we were in the military. Get a hard training thing, or even after a combat patrol or any type of thing where you actually were out there doing your shit and you come back, you got to clean your weapons. You do it on a table. You're surrounded by your brothers and your sisters, and you're doing this tedious process where you have to be focused. It takes you out of your mind, and it allows you to open up with the people to your right and left and talk about what's going on. Like, oh man, you remember that thing that happened? Yeah, oh, man. It's just kind of like a way. So I see that same thing with the soap, and I think, like, man, imagine, I could do like a squad of guys at a time, right? And they're around a table making soap, with decompressing and still having a job that they can enjoy with being other guys. But then it's not something that, I'm hoping 10% of the guys want to stick with it and help us grow, and the other guys move on to something else, but at least they've kind of taken some steps. So
yeah, maybe they can take some steps to better themselves and go upon their life in a little bit better shape than when they entered your doors, right? You did a good point about the repetitive process and cleaning, because there was nothing worse than kind of cleaning your weapon by yourself. Like, if you're the only one
right.
cleaning your weapon, it sucked, and it seemed like it took forever. In reality, it took probably just about as much time as when everybody else is around you. But when you're just laughing and joking and swapping stories and, some dirty comments and, things like that, like, before you know it, you're done.
Yeah.
Or you're done with yours and you've turned your weapon in, and, you're helping somebody else, clean one of the heavy weapons or whatever. And you just you go through the process, and makes it so much smoother, better, more connections. So, but that's not the only thing your soap is doing, right? You're when you're selling them, you're taking.
Yes. What we do is every bar we sell, we donate bars. It's like a model of like Tom's shoes. Like, you buy one, you give one. So it's the same thing. So we donate a bar for every bar sold. And so far, like right now, the way I've been doing it is I give them to the guys that I see and need, especially in this last pandemic. The biggest benefactor of our soaps was Lava May. And what's great is that they were in San Francisco, and I haven't had a relationship with them for a while. So I've been doing a lot of these, but what was great is that I actually reached out and I found another guy that's doing a mobile shower. I sent them a message. I haven't heard from them. And this was like literally like 2 days ago. And because that's been the next step, right? Is like, I want to bring a mobile shower to this area and then another area. And I didn't want to spread myself thin by trying to solve something that somebody else is already doing. So, and what's cool about that is they're actually a part of Lava May again. And so now I actually have a call with some people with Lava May again that are local, and they do they were doing some really cool stuff. They were showing how to make some portable hand wash stations, which is a project I really want to get into as well. You just build them yourself and you set them out there, and homeless guys will be able to wash your hands. So, yeah. Again, I don't want to get too far out. Like if somebody else is already doing it, which is another new thing that I'm learning in this journey, is I don't have to do everything. I just have to know the right people and put them together. So
you gotta find a way to stay in your lane, because I don't know if you've heard him say it, but Travis Johnson has said many times, to people about like nonprofits, like there's something like 50,000 veteran nonprofits out there. And so some people are doing some really good things and they have a streamlined process. So why reinvent that wheel when you can just partner with them and find out, however that looks, and just the next step in the evolution of that service.
Well, and I've noticed like lately, like in the last few months, that I've actually had, I really like sales to increase, and I'm getting my systems in place, and sales are going to be huge. But what I really, really learned lately is that if you just focus on the people around you, like you find that support structure that you need, and you don't have to do everything. And the people, if they believe in you, they're willing to help, and they're willing to take that step. Which again, as we get to the HAB, and we're going to talk about HAB, which is a phenomenal idea, and it's a learning process, right? So we've only really done one mission, and a few have what I call what have been great have relation kind of things, right? Actually building networks and getting together, but not building anything huge yet. Was the one with Jose and the coffee, which has been a great learning as we move along and move forward with these, which I think it's going to be amazing. It's like I don't know. I just really feel we're on this cusp of this huge movement of, like I said, truly being the next greatest generation. I mean, you know what is insane, and we're going to share this on the 4th of July, is that this last war, you could have had a father and son fighting in the same exact war. Like it's gone, the father could have gone to combat initially and not have kids, and then had a kid who is old enough to go back in the same theater of operation.
Yeah, it's kind of mind blowing when you think about it. I was thinking the other day, it's like we're in 2021, so we could be, without doing all the math in my head, we could be having people separating from the military now who may or may not have deployed, but still served during global war on terrorism, who were born after 9/11. I mean, we're at 20, almost at 20 years here this fall. So you could have somebody maybe with an early separation or a medical discharge or something. So we're right on the cusp of that happening, of having a generation of veterans coming out of service who were born after that, who just did not experience the horror and the tragedy of that day, which is kind of mind-blowing to think about.
It is.
So to think that there's people that young. I've got a nephew I've got a couple of nephews that are, almost 19 years old, and just to think that they're old enough to be out there, fighting the war now.
And Keith, and here's the thing is when we step into that mantle, it will be even more phenomenal, because that first greatest generation was a conscript army. It wasn't an all volunteer force, right? We are an all volunteer force. That means that guys that signed up after 9/11 knew were saying, hey man, I'm gonna risk myself for an idea and something that I believe in, right? Like, it wasn't that the government didn't say, hey, we're gonna pick you and you and you and you. Everybody there chose that, and that is like amazing. That is just like, I was blown away because I was already in after 9/11, right? So like I was blown away when guys go, yeah, man, I saw that and I decided I want to go join. And I'm like, man, that says a lot for the character. And I know we like to razz on the millennials and those were the guys that they said, hey, I'm going to do it, at least a percent.
Yeah, I mean 9/11 stuff. I was a sophomore in high school when it happened. I was in Spanish class.
Yeah.
And came into school and you could tell something was different. You couldn't quite tell what was up. None of the teachers were in the hallway. Nobody had a smile on their face, but none of the students paid attention because obviously it was 2001, right? It's not like we had cell phones and alerts on our phones and Facebook notifications going off. So, but by the time it came to go get to that first class, we go and we sit down, and the teacher just looked at everybody. She's like, I'm about to turn the TV on, and there's something going on, and I don't really know what to say. But this doesn't look good. And then so she turned it on, and there's the news coverage, and then, we all know what happened next, the second plane and the Pentagon and all that stuff. And we just kind of sat there. I don't even know how long we sat in that class.
Yeah.
I think the bells went off and nobody moved. We just kind of sat there, just glued to the TV for a couple of hours, just like wondering, it's what the hell is going on with our world? When you're 16 years old, you're in high school, and, if you've lived this world that's been peaceful, yes, we had Desert Storm. Yes, we had Kosovo and some other little things here and there where we had some military, but we didn't have a long war. We didn't have a huge terrorist attack. We had nothing like that.
Yeah.
And, it's just kind of crazy. I remember my father died that year. He was in the hospital during that. And I remember going up there. That's one of the last great conversations I had with him. Is we kind of sat there and I was like, Dad, what does this mean? And he got drafted in Vietnam, but he was allergic to penicillin. He found out by getting the shot, and he took 3 steps, went out the door and face planted, woke up in the hospital 3 days later, found out he was allergic. And then they gave him the boot because you can't have somebody allergic to penicillin in a combat zone, I guess, back then. So, I was just talking to him. I'm like, what does this mean? I'm confused. I'm 16. Like, what does this mean? Like, this was obviously a terrorist attack by that evening. And I could just tell the fear in his eyes of, God, I hope I can't believe we're here. But he knew that he was dying, I think. And he also knew that I was 16 and just a couple of years away from certain. Now, I didn't enlist until I was 21, but,
right.
It's I would have never expected at that point in time, just a few years later, I'd be stepping boots in Iraq myself. But, it just changed the world in so many crazy ways.
Well,
it's weird that people could be serving now that didn't experience that.
I always thought 9/11 was a lesson in people not studying history, right? Like, an overt attack against this nation like that. It's like, it's just it's the one way to unite us. I mean, at least historically, that was the biggest way to unite us. So, I mean, I always thought that was like a futile attempt because then we're all the same, right? Like, we forget about all the differences at that point. And what my goal is, and it's always been, is maybe we can get back to where we don't need an event like that to realize how important our community is, right? And when I say our community, I mean like as a nation, like my neighbors, the guy on the block away. Like, we don't need an attack on our country. We don't need like some huge pandemic or some huge like tragedy to unite us. Like, we could unite under like cool shit too, Like,
absolutely. I think we're very uniquely situated because you've tied it to the greatest generation, and much love to the World War II guys. I've met so many of them in my life.
Yes.
And man, we literally owe them everything. I mean, they took on, as a reference to old video games in the 80s and 90s, right? They took on the boss level for us.
yeah.
They took on the boss level and they whooped them, and they whooped them bad. And so much love to those guys, but they kind of came back. And we all kind of know the prosperity in the 1950s into the 60s. They came back, they settled in their jobs. They didn't say a damn word about their experiences.
Yeah.
They didn't know what PTSD was. There was no talk about mental health, no counseling, nothing. It was come back, get a job, start a family, live in the suburb. I mean, stereotyping here, but that's what they did. They just kind of came back and did that.
I
And we
agree.
learned so much.
100%. Same thing with Korea and even Vietnam guys. Like, some of them were more vocal, I think, the Vietnam guys, about the combat traumas and all that. But like before them, and even some of them in Vietnam that were there, like they didn't do anything. What they did was they found a new mission and they just stuck with it, and they put their nose, they compartmentalized, they shoved it down. So I mean, I don't know which of us is better off.
It's a good point.
And the only reason I say that is because I used to go to a vet center in Southern California, South Orange County Vet Center, and I was privileged enough to do a OIF Vietnam veteran combined group. Like there was a huge Vietnam following in that vet center, and they had their own group, and they went in there and they talked. Like one of the team leaders of the vet center was an A-team guy, Green Beret back in Vietnam, and he was a team leader of that vet center. So he had a Vietnam group, and then they had started an OIF group, and we were going side by side for a while, and then they wanted to put us together to see what the similarities were and what the differences were. And the similarities were that they all had nightmares. They all used the wrong substances to cope. They all had just crazy stuff going on, but then they also just ate that for 30 years, right? Like they just suffered through it for 30 years, and they just put their nose to the grindstone. And then what they were finding was as they retired, that's when they were coming in. Like there were new guys coming into their group all the time, and they were retirement age because there was like idle hands, man. Now I don't have anything to unfocus my mind on. And I remember David Rothenbuehler was a guy's name, and he had a nonprofit that was really helpful to me and Max early on. He ended up passing. He used to tell us when I used to feel like shitty about something nonsense that we did in the military, like, oh God, it was so hard. He used to tell us this story that he was up when he was in Vietnam, and they were up near the DMZ zone, and it was hot as shit, and they spraying Agent Orange to kill the foliage, and then it'd grow back like in 2 days. And he's like, it's so hot. He goes, man, we rub kerosene on our bodies because it'd evaporate faster. If we get too hot, we'd be rubbing kerosene. And I was like, man, I'm never going to complain about an op again because I never had to rub kerosene on my body to keep cool.
Yeah, no, there's some of the things they had to do in Vietnam. I read a lot of books about Vietnam War when I was a kid, and that's something else. And I know a lot of guys that are like that. I'm involved with the Honor Flight program. Been involved for 6 years here locally. I've seen a lot of guys cry when we bring them home because they finally went with a group of guys to DC. They saw the wall. They had an opportunity to open up the floodgates and let all those emotions out.
Yeah.
30, 40, 50, 50 years now worth of emotions. And it changes them. Yeah. They're just drastically changed. I've talked to some women who, said that after that flight, their husband is just a night and day difference.
Yeah.
Just totally different. And it's just crazy what one little trip or one little counseling session to kind of better yourself can do.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of power in that. But there's a lot of things. I mean, luckily we talk about mental health stuff now. That's a generational thing. Greatest generation. I certainly hope we're never referred to as the greatest generation because those guys really do deserve that tip of the hat.
Yeah.
But we do have opportunities, though. You're damn right about that. We have opportunities to face the things that we faced, to talk about it, to get help, to make mental health in our community more normal, more accepted. I mean, I didn't seek any counseling myself until last fall. 13 years. I had a battle buddy of mine. Talked to him on the phone, and he's like, "What the hell do you mean you haven't seen any counseling?" And I said, "Nope, I haven't." He goes, "Dude, you should have done that 13 years ago. I don't know why you didn't." And I said, "Well, the whole stigma around going to mental health. Mental health's going to take your weapons, and then once your weapons are gone in the military, your career's over."
There's an whole. I mean, look, I don't fault them. I don't fault the military for how they do things. They do things for a reason, right?
You got to have your mind set on the mission.
Yeah,
and you can't take it off.
It's a mission, and it's fine. I think as long as we recognize that, and I think in the end, one of the biggest services that I think we could do to guys that want to go into the service is to teach them to I always get this word. Okay, it's always on the tip of my tongue. They need to advocate for themselves more, right? Like, yeah, hey man, I got that. I'm mission first too, but I do need to go to sick call, because if you want me fully operational, then I need to make sure I'm okay. And I think the military, they're not gonna go, yeah, everybody go to sick call. You gotta advocate.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things we need to do, especially when again, another thing, because no matter how long you're in, you get into the mindset that we're replaceable because we switch units and you just fit right in. Which is not, it's not that they don't care about you, but it's just that's the nature of the beast, right? Like, you go from one unit and you just fit right in. When you go, they fit somebody else in. So,
you don't have time to sit there and think about that person that's not there anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you got social media and stuff, you're friends with them, but you have to get to know the new guy, because your life depends on the new guy.
Exactly.
His life depends on you. You gotta build that. You don't have time to stop and smell the roses, or whatever analogy you can come up with. And I think that doesn't help us as veterans sometimes too. We get stuck in our own head and we bury ourselves in work, and it's just, okay, so what? On to the next thing. Sometimes we don't take that time to just kind of decompress a little bit, stop and enjoy the journey, whatever the case may be. But we got to start doing a little bit more of that sometimes. But, sometimes there's some there's a way you can do that and still be around your battle buddies too. Like you mentioned earlier, the have missions.
Yes.
So that's for people who may not have heard about it. I know I've talked about Stephen and Lane here on my podcast.
To the have mission, you have to talk. You also have to talk about the Stephen and Lane's book, right? Unleash Your Humble Alpha, because that's
absolutely.
And the have is just an offshoot of that. So as I'm going on these journeys, right, I'm doing multiple things. Like, I'm learning all these new ways to kind of reset and focus and stay on track. And Stephen and Lane's book is almost like a guide. It's not a how-to, but it's like it's a more what you can be, right? If you really kind of take the lessons and you apply them. And then I'm also kind of following this 30 days of intention and really being more intentional, setting intentions in the morning, really kind of letting go of those old beliefs, meditating more, and then really getting back to setting up a routine. Like, it's funny, as I do in all these journeys, like no one is sharing anything that we don't know, but I think they're sharing it in a way that really applies to where we're at right now, right? Like, we're really recognizing some of the things that we've moved away from for the lack of for either progression or ease or whatever, and then it's been rebranded so that there's like a change. Like, community building is awesome, right? Like, man, back in when we were a prosperous nation, man, it was not frowned upon for people to pull together and build something together, right? For the common community, right?
Absolutely.
Raisings all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
You would show up, somebody would bring food, and you'd all elevate each other, right? Hey, these are some lessons learned from when I built my barn, and here's some ways to do, like, or just like community itself was always there. And like, as I'm on this journey and I'm learning these things, right, I'm hearing all these people talk, and it's all coming back to that one thing. It's about community, right? My buddy Tommy Chase, who also has a podcast, and Keith, you should hit him up so that you can be on his podcast.
Okay.
It's After the Battle Campfire. And what he talks about is how after battles or after whatever, these warriors used to come back to the campfire and they used to sit and they used to talk about the battle. It's like I said, when we used to clean our weapons, right? We used to be out in the field. You come back and you develop community and you share these things, and it helped you decompress. It helped you reconnect. It helped you to let go of those things so that they weren't compartmentalized and shoved down. Same thing, like it was so let's talk about this hat. It was a Humble Alpha Veteran Empowerment. Like I said, it's an offshoot of the book that Stephen and Lane wrote. If you don't know Stephen Kuhn and Lane Belone, they wrote this really great book. They were in Peru. They were doing some meditation and consuming some plant medicine that really been helpful in so many ways. And it allowed them to receive kind of this great message of how to share what a Humble Alpha was to begin with, which really it comes back for me. It's like just being a decent human being, right? It's not being nasty. It's not being the dirtbag airman, right?
Just being a humble, the best person you can be genuine. It's a great book. I don't have a physical copy, but I have the audio version of it. I've shared it with my wife. I've shared it with my son. It's just it's number one on my reading list on my Battle Buddy podcast website. And there's a reason.
I actually have an intention on my Clubhouse, like if you, because I do Clubhouse now, which I'm connecting, because what I'm finding is that I'm really kind of in to steal another guy's term when he's talking about community, is like there's different roles in the community. I feel like I'm like an expansionist and like a pollinator of communities, right? Like I like to go out and find other communities to see what are the similarities. Like, what are they sharing that we can all bring together? And now, like what ends up happening is, in my head, it's like a hybrid community now, right? Like, because now, and that's been my goal, is to really bridge this cultural gap between the veteran community and civilians. But what I'm learning is that as I listen to civilians talk, as I kind of embed myself, right? I feel like I'm on a HET team, right? I'm doing reconnaissance or something.
It's a good way of looking at it.
Is what I'm learning is like, man, their passions are like our passions, right? Like, I know we hear that they're so different and all that, but I think that's just kind of like the outside. But when you really listen to the people talk, you know, when they talk about building community and sharing and a common purpose and higher purpose, and like, it's just like, man, that sounds just like my veteran brothers talking, right? Like bringing people together, having a higher purpose, living transparent, like having the honor, courage, and commitment, right? Like this whole mantra of things that we don't think that they believe in, I'm seeing that they do. And it's like I said, we're at this point, and
they just came to it from a different perspective.
Yeah,
they just came to it through different environments, different experiences.
Exactly.
You know, whereas ours is kind of tied to, you know, military service and you know, core values and things like that. It's kind of just built and fostered there.
Mm-hmm. So as they went back to where they actually got the download for the book, and they went through another ceremony, this Humble Alpha Veteran Empowerment, or HAV, kind of came up, and they shared this beautiful video about what they saw as like a way for veterans to empower each other and really uplift, right? Like really kind of be a part of there, where there's like investment to help each other, where there's like resources, where there is like a place that you can go to that got no ulterior motive other than to elevate you, right? And then And then I was like, man, this is beautiful. It just sounds just like it was like they were talking on things that I thought of like 20 years ago. All right, that's not well, actually 20 years is too long. When did I get out? 2012. So almost 20 years. 10 years, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I was like, man, they're talking right at me. And then I just happened to get on a call with one of the other guys in the tribe, and I said, man, did you see? I was just sharing if they had seen Stephen and Lane's video. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm trying to get. He was like, no, I was just thinking of. I got my containers, and I want to get my coffee shop up. And like, boom, this light hit me. I just heard what they were talking about, and I thought, what about a great physical manifestation of that idea? Support, collaborate, elevate. The humble alpha veteran empowerment, everything that they had taught, that they sent in that video. I was like, wow, we could like physically manifest this now. And I just took that action, like that imperfect action, and said, Jose, let's do this, man. Why don't we get a group of guys? We're going to come over there and we're going to help you build this thing. And we're going to get it done for you. Like, let's get the walls up. Let's get the power in it. Obviously it was a huge undertaking in such a short, imperfect action of time.
Hey, but you made progress.
So many amazing lessons learned, right? We didn't get to finish the first time. And actually at first, I think Jose, his right brain thing, right? The logical part was like, well, actually, I probably don't have everything ready. So it's probably not. But then I was like talking to him. I was like, man, we just got to do it. Like, because Jose is very, very Christian. I mean, his third day coffee seguin, right? Third day, all of his things have scriptures written on them, and he had shared with me, I don't know, not even 2 weeks before that, how he has tried to let go and let God lead him, right? And he had shared that one scripture where God says the yoke of life is mine to carry, not yours. Your job is to live life. So when he was pushing back, and I really wanted to, I was like, man, we got to just make this happen, right? Like, it's got to, because if not, I was thinking to myself, if I don't push this, or if somebody doesn't push it now, it's just going to kind of fall back. I'm going to forget about it. I'm not going to write it down. And a great opportunity in momentum and growth and just sharing this beautiful message and power is going to get lost. So I just do that back at him, and I said, didn't you just share with me that you're putting it in God's hands? And he said, you're right. All right, let's do it. And then
just make it happen, man. Imperfect action, right?
Yeah. And then we put the post out, and at first I didn't think we weren't sure many were going to show. And then luckily we had some cool Texas dudes that showed up. Chris showed up, Chris Shivers, JD, Tierney from down in Corpus, Kennedy Page, who he had just come on the scene on the vet tribe, and like nobody, like he was just like a new guy, and we had connected a little bit, and me and him shared that he wants to do an urban farm. I have a passion to facilitate an urban farm in the Houston area, which is all tied into this community, because building a community and having a place where people can come together and like do community stuff, right? Like do old time stuff in a new time era that heals the soul.
Yeah. Right? Take it from online to, in person, rolling up your sleeves, doing things. I was jealous, honestly, when that came out, I wanted to be down there so bad, but it's a little ways away from Central
Well, that's okay. Illinois. You know what though? Look, man, it's timing. And this is what I'm learning, man. Timing is when it happens. Like, we were supposed to do this. When did we first talk about doing this podcast? And it probably just wasn't the right time. I probably wasn't in the right mindset. We probably didn't have the right amount of time. And now we're having this beautiful conversation right now, right here.
That's weird how things happen for a reason,
man.
And I think if you reflect on life, like you can notice a trend of just sometimes things happen at a certain time.
Yeah.
Good things, and then sometimes bad things happen at a certain time, but sometimes out of those bad things, good things happen. And so you just got to be looking out for the positive when, at all times, and look out for opportunities.
There was an unknown shared to me as my, see, I don't call the people that I bring into my life a network anymore. I think it's kind of a network. To me, the way I defined a network are people that know me, right? Are people that know of my business and what I do, right? Everybody I bring into my life is a community, because for me, the community are the people that know Joe and what he's passionate about, right? There's a difference there, right? Like they're the people that are going to go, hey, you know what? We haven't seen Joe in a while. He's probably, is he okay? And they can reach out and they go, hey man, are you okay? Not because they and I'm going to say it, not because they need their grenades, right? Like their grenades. So it's like I was struggling for grenades, and I'm still not complete with that whole order. But Nick knows that I'm true to who I am, and that I'm going to get them to him. And when he gets them, they're going to be the best that I can provide, and that if it's not coming, that if there's something going on, and he can reach out, because it's me, it's Joe, and he knows Joe, not Maxwell soap, right? He knows that I have that I struggle. We all struggle. He knows, you know what I mean? Like those are the people that I love in my life, right? Because they know it takes a village, and that when we get there, we're going to get there, and it's going to be phenomenal, and it's going to be beautiful, and it's going to happen when it happens.
There's a lot of joy in sitting back watching people, I guess for anybody who's, who'd be watching or listening, we are members of the Vetrepreneur Tribe, and then there's the Warrior Council, which is a paid mastermind kind of group. And we are like a family in there. There may be close to 100 people in there, but we're kind of like, a family, but very distanced family through the screen in most part, but we're like, a family. But when you hear about other people's businesses, the successes and the failures, the bumps along the road, when somebody has that breakthrough moment, man, even if you had nothing to do with it, it's amazing to sit back and be like, wow. Because we know and appreciate the hard work that it goes into, and all, may not know the actual steps, but that there's a lot of bumps to get over to get that success.
And I look, Keith, I really I'd like to see an evolution of the Warrior Council, and I don't know I think it's happening because you see Stephen and Lane more open about talking about energies and powers and vibrations, which I didn't buy into at all. Like seriously, like I didn't buy into any of these things until I did, right? And that's how we all are, right? Like you don't know what you don't know until you know, and I there is something to it, man, because I shared an Instagram post, and I'm gonna talk about this, and you guys can go back and look at it today. You share when we film this? No,
I don't. But it's
anyway. Okay, you'll go back on my Instagram post, and I really believe in this vibrational energy, and that when what you put out there, you get back. And a part of the thing that I'm working on, and the reason I'm also going to talk about sales, hopefully here, and hopefully you guys can help me hit my July goal in June, which is another 25 single bar subscriptions, and I'm going to. Because I never share that. I never share those things. But anyway, I'm sharing my journey. And one of the things I'm looking at is financial, because growing up the way I did is like, I didn't know what I didn't know. And a lot of it, I used to let finances run me and not really take charge. So I've actually been taking those steps. I have a True Bill now so that I see what comes out. I actually look and I pay attention. I look at my bills again, which I don't take me wrong. This is like have been in the last. Today's I'm on day 16 of my 30 days of intention, so I'm halfway there. So it hasn't been a long time, and it wasn't until probably the last 4 or 5 days where I'm really focusing. And I was looking at my Verizon bill today, and I noticed. And I'm like, oh, it increased on my True Bill. It says Verizon bill increased by $14. And I'm like, well, that makes sense because I upgraded my phone. Because if you guys know, my phone's always terrible. When we're in Warrior Council calls or if I'm on things, my shit's always breaking. So I was like, I need it. I need it because I'm man. If I could go without, I wouldn't have. So I'm like, well, that makes sense. And I was not going to look. And I thought to myself, no. Because that's the easy way out. And that's just giving me an excuse not to look at my finances, which has not gotten me anywhere in the last 48 years. So I look, and there's no mistake. It's right. It says what, but then I look closely and I'm like, well, wait a minute. I'm still on Verizon because it doesn't give me any money back, but they have these other programs that I get savings somewhere else. So I'm like, I better call. Long story short, I share with the guy on there what I'm doing and why I'm calling, and that I'm on this kind of journey, and that I'm really growing and I'm taking charge. And he's like, well, let me look on here. And he says, okay, go on this thing. And he kind of walks me through this. Long story short, there was a discrepancy. And then he said, and then I said, oh, cool. And I go, also, I noticed I still have these device dollars that I wanted to put when I upgraded my phone. And he goes, well, hold on, Mr. Joe, let me check this out. He goes back, long story short, he comes back and he goes, hey, I'm not going to be able to use that, but there was a discrepancy in your account a couple of months back. So we're going to give you a $500 credit on your account.
Wow.
Like, what?
$500 credit?
Yeah. And I'm like, man, that's amazing. And he's like, no, he goes, you know what, Mr. Joe, he goes, I really respect your journey. He goes, about 2 years back, he goes, a family emergency required me to take out a $25,000 loan. And he goes, I had no idea how I was going to pay it back. I had no idea what I was going to do. I used to live in that where finances ran me too. And I said, you know what? I'm going to take this loan out and I'm going to study and I'm going to learn what I need to know. And he says, I took control of my finances. He goes, here it is. Like, it's not even 2 years. I've paid it all back. I've increased my wealth. I'm happier. He goes, you're on the right road, man. He goes, keep what you're doing. Stay the course. Do the work. He goes, set that intention every morning. He goes, I'm very intentional with my money now. He goes, I don't want to say I have more money. He goes, but I am wealthier. I'm happier. I spend more time with my family. I'm more purposeful with my spending. He goes, and I was like, man, thank you for the validation, because we were supposed to be on this call. I almost didn't want to do it. So I wanted to share that on this thing that really shows, man, what you put out there, you get back. I shared this, and it allowed this person who doesn't know me from Adam to go, let me see what I can do for you. And that is the power of community. Ness, new friend. I said, man, I know it's recorded. Take down my cell, connect with me, man. And it was just like a beautiful experience, a beautiful learning experience for me on my journey, and how to build community and how to really just be you, you know? So
that's incredible.
Because timing is everything, Keith.
Yes, it is.
We would have done this podcast. I wouldn't have been able to share that message of vibrational energy and power and just being you.
There's a lot of energy things, I must admit, that I don't necessarily believe in, but I've always believed that if you put out good energy yourself and you try to genuinely do nice things for other people and be there for people when they need it, you just put that positivity out there, stuff will come back to you.
Yeah.
You know, in who knows what way, what shape, when, but those kind of good things just kind of have a way of coming around. It's just a totally different mentality of being around things. You know, it's just like, you know, what you're trying to remember the actual term, but in terms of net wealth, like it's something about who you hang out with or something like that's tied to your net worth, something along those lines. Like, you got to hang out with the right people with the right mentality. And I can tell you, since joining the Warrior Council last fall, like I feel like I am every week, I'm with a group of people who are trying and doing every single week to grow personally, professionally, whatever. There's constant growth, and I get to witness it every single week.
And Keith, I heard you wanting to. You're thinking of doing your own have mission. I got to tell you, look, the value and the physical, and getting in the physical proximity of that shared, like how you are, right? Like what you present, that energy that you give, and then getting in the proximity of others that have a similar kind of like service first, right? Kind of energy it's like multiplied when you're in that presence. And it's like, I mean, well, you know, like if you ever now that people are actually venturing out more and you're getting to be around people, I find that I lead with that more, right? That I'm more open, that more friendliness, and that other people are starving for it. So you just feel that in those quick interactions, like, man, like just saying please and thank you and oh, I hope you have a wonderful day. Like people light up again, and it's just beautiful to see. So anyway,
Yeah. I'll say my personal opinion with these have missions. As soon as I watched that video, and I actually watched it with my family, and I was just like on the edge of my couch, just like, I get it. I had like maybe a week and a half before that had just finished the audiobook.
yes,
And so I'm like, this is perfect. It makes too much sense. Lane is always, his go-to thing, it seems to be, is, imperfect action. And it's like,
yeah,
that's almost like the manifestation of what this is. It's be humble, be a good person, grateful, all those things, everything that they talk about in their book. But then it throws in the action aspect of it, specifically for the veteran community of like, okay, be humble, be a good person, but, look for these things. So I was really excited about it. And then when you came up with the first mission, I found myself consciously, I shifted my mindset to be looking specifically for opportunities to have a mission.
no, absolutely. That's exactly, and like I said, the lessons learned. Like, and I think what the next plan is I really, and here's the thing is that as I'm growing, I'm realizing there are certain tools that I need to reevaluate and bring back, and one of them is the planning phase. Like I know we've been talking a lot about imperfect action, right, and everything, and but we also still have to remember that we need to have some planned actions too, right? So,
Yeah, you can't just
but I think a
put
lot
it
of
all
us
together.
get so wrapped up in the 5-paragraph order as veterans. Like, for those that aren't veterans that are watching, a 5-paragraph order is an operational order that's usually issued before you conduct a huge operation. But it's just a huge guideline, and it's huge. It's 5 paragraphs, and it's like it's got so much information, but it's a guideline. What I think we should really kind of start looking at is conducting imperfect action, but at the same time, maybe start looking at conducting maybe a warning order or a frago, right? Because I think we have to have a little more planned as well. Like there's got to be a balance, I think, and that's what I learned as my after actions for the first HAB mission is that we should have some kind of guideline. It doesn't have to be perfect and whatnot, but we got to have there's got to be at least a little more structure. And again, not to the point where like, hey guys, now we're going to have a breakout session, but let it be organic. But really, I think that's kind of where I'm at on the HAB. And
Yeah, makes sense.
They're going to grow, man. Keith, it's a movement, I think, really.
Yeah, it's got to be enough people. I think it'll build up steam, when you have number 2, number 3, number 4, whatever, and you see different examples of the way you can do it. Because honestly, we've just had your mission.
Mm-hmm.
That's one very specific example of coming together and physically building a shop for somebody and doing some physical work. But it doesn't have to be exactly like that.
No.
And once you see the multitude of different ways that could take shape, and more people will know about it and hear about it and read the book, and then you'll see it escalating, snowball effect. It'll just pick up steam. Yeah. So that'll be awesome to see how that goes.
And yeah, so that's where I'm like, I'll be honest, man. Like at first I was thinking, man, I'd really love to do a HAB mission for what I want to do, but I always thought I need to get more clarity because I'm still not 100% clear on what I want a mission to be like. So as I want to participate in so many more, just for that same reason that you're saying, as we see more examples, we can kind of finite what they are and all that. And one great HAB mission that I would really love to see that we could really do, that's not a physical, like it's not getting together, but some of us do some great stuff online. And like, could you imagine like a collaboration where somebody does like ads? We're gonna all get together and we're gonna get together. We're gonna do ads, and all the ads all the revenue from this have ad mission will go to a physical have mission. You know what I mean? Like and it elevates other people. I mean, it's just like, again, I have a million of them, and it's just down right.
You know, maybe that's just when
the point where I have
something
some
together.
things that become shiny objects, and I got to be careful.
Yeah, no, that's what we should, do something on Zoom and invite everybody from the council in there and just talk about things, throw out ideas, jot them down.
Mm-hmm.
Bring little brainstorming.
Yeah,
get some ideas, and hopefully other people can kind of have that spark like I did of being, loving the idea to constantly looking for that opportunity. Because then you're going to see it. It's just
excuse me.
No, it's all good.
I always have a reminder. That's a 30-minute reminder to pick up my daughter from school.
Gotcha.
I need that 30 minutes. I unplug it because it's going to go off like every 5 minutes because I tend to forget to pick up my daughter. He's too young to see this, so that's okay. My wife, and also in my defense, my wife works at school with her, so she usually just goes and sits in my wife's office.
Yeah, well, that's good for her then. Yeah. Then what do you need to? Yeah. She should just sit there and do her homework every day, right?
That's what she does. She goes, and here's the funny thing though. I know we're on a tangent, but if I get there early, she's mad because she didn't get to do her homework before she came home.
Sometimes you can't win as a parent. You just can't. But man, this has been a great conversation, about the have missions and just empowering people. And I guess I'll just leave it at that. At this.
Can I share a little bit more about,
about
the evolution of for me, the evolution of the have missions, right? And the reason I liked Jose for me as the first one is because Jose had a physical location. And for me, I would really like to see when we do physical location have missions that we start to incorporate a have resource center in those places that are not just for veterans, but where a veteran can invite civilian business owners or civilian entrepreneurs in and bridge that gap, right? Because that is in the as I realize my superpower and my passion, it's really is to bridge that cultural divide between our veteran community and our veteran culture. I'm going to say culture. It's not. We actually have I think it's a totally different culture too. Our veteran culture and community with the civilian culture and community, right? That's always been my thing. So I would, as these have missions grow and maybe develop into have centers, right? Because my intention, long-term intention, is a series of veteran transitional work programs as a small urban farm and dog training center that have a soap shop and other workshops in there to do artisan work and sell products, right? But that also are a place for community to meet, because I got the idea when I was working on my initial transitional work program, just using the dog training center. And I didn't have an urban farm. I was just wanting to use dogs because dogs are good. They're good diffusing mechanisms, right? They take off the pressure of people meeting, because then there's a common denominator. If somebody comes up to Keith because they like Keith's pit bull, they're going to go, "Hey Keith, is that a pit bull?" And you're going to be like, "Well, yeah, we don't call them pit bulls in this city because there's you just it's a way to strike a conversation with them coming up to you and going, "Hi, my name is Joe, and what is your name?" And that where veterans we tend to be like standoffish a little bit, especially if you had a long service, and especially if you've had some combat service, right? It's like, well, shoot, I just used to think of how I used to think all the time, right? Be polite, be professional, but have a plan to kill everybody I meet. That's kind of a weird kind of standoffish way to meet new people.
Yeah. It's kind of funny you talk about this wall, because I was literally in Clubhouse last night and I was in a room about real estate. It was all fellow realtors across the country, probably 12, 15 people in there. And so they noticed I was a vet, and they called me up there, and I don't know what kind of prompted the question, but a couple of the ladies that were in there started asking some questions about, how should you address a veteran? Should you say thank you for your service? And certain things. And I actually applauded them after a great conversation for having the guts to kind of ask the question. Because, I share my opinion that sometimes it kind of feels good to be thanked for your service, but, you didn't do it for the thanks. I mean, everybody had their own different reasons. But I was like, real short, but, my answer was like, you can add more to it to give it more context. You can say something to the effect, like for a Vietnam veteran, hey, welcome home. I appreciate your service, all those years ago, doing everything that you did, and glad you're here with us. Or for other people, you can say, I really appreciate your willingness to stand up for our country, and all the blood, sweat, and tears that, that it took for you to serve and greatly appreciate, or I don't know, something like that, right? Like you can kind of put your own little twist on it, and it comes out so much more genuine and caring instead of this, hey, thank you for your service.
You know what, Keith, man, this is also this last piece of our conversation really shows how alike all of us are, right? Like, and it also like, I love that they ask you that, right? And thinking that your answer is going to be the same answer that every veteran did.
I did try to tell them, I was like, everybody's going to be different, but it's a good guideline.
I love that. It's the misconception that because we are service members, that we are all alike. They do not realize that really the service are a bunch of individuals that choose to have a common purpose. We're not the same, man. Like, I like when people say thank you for your service. Like, I think I got to the point where now I just say thank you. Like I say, oh man, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for appreciating that, because
it doesn't bother me either, but I know some people it bothers. And then they had a follow-up question about Memorial Day.
That's okay.
And then they're like, should we thank veterans on Memorial Day? And I'm like, well, that's kind of a loaded question.
That's it.
Like some people lost buddies in combat and they're going to take great offense to it. But some people, it's just going to roll right off their back. Like, for me, okay, I understand maybe they don't understand it all as a civilian. How are they supposed to? How are they supposed to identify with our culture?
You're an NCO, right? You're an NCO? Yeah. So I mean, I think the higher up in rank and the more that you were in charge of training and training other people, I used to, I can see guys get offended, but I think what we need to realize is that let's use it as a training tool. That's a training experience. You know what? Hey, I appreciate that, but Memorial Day is a remembrance of all those that lost their lives.
Yeah.
You can thank me on Veterans Day. And then, also there's another thing that's called Armed Forces Day. That's when you actually can thank those guys that are still in service. Like I love the opportunity to teach people.
I think it's a great opportunity too for some people, if they're obviously willing to do so. Like you said, education moment, if they did lose somebody.
Yeah. That's hard.
You could use it as an opportunity to talk about veteran suicide. Just use it as an opportunity. Yeah, that's great. That is a great nugget right there. Because I think the intention is good. From 99% of people, the intention is good. They just don't know what to say. It's just like if you have a friend who lost a loved one, right? Yeah. I'm sorry for your loss. You are sorry for their loss, but it just kind of feels a little weird and kind of empty saying it sometimes. Yeah. And so sometimes it's just really hard to find the right words.
I hear you now. I struggle with that all the time, and I think before also too is like now, like the new me is like, if I struggle with a way to comment on something, I try not to. Right? Like if I can't get the right words, it's just I don't want to be disingenuous or I don't want to say anything. I'll wait maybe I'll wait until I can kind of just vocalize it. I don't know. There's just
sometimes through text, things can get misinterpreted really easy.
This is what I love about talking with veterans is that I know we've had a lot of value in this conversation, and then we've probably had a lot of just let's talk about this and talk about that.
And I told you we were just gonna just kind of wing it. We were just gonna talk about the have missions and then really just empowering. What you're trying to do with your soaps. Trying to give back and give back to the veteran community. It's just perfect.
You've shared a lot about you've asked questions about me, and you've shared a lot. What do you got going on, and what can you share with your audience, with me, that's going to watch? Because some of my audience will be watching too. What would you like to share that can elevate and provide you value?
That's a good one. Well, my day job business is in real estate, residential real estate sales, Central Illinois. I work in the Peoria area. So it's very, very hyper local type business, but I always tell people I have two passions. One is talking about real estate, and the other one is talking about veterans issues. Sometimes they overlap, but really, it's that's really my two passions. I mean, that's my day job, and then doing this podcast. This is just kind of my, just as of the recording of this, who knows, things could change. But I mean, I have 0 sponsors for the show. It's like everything I do is just to give back.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like that's something that we need to do as a community of veterans, is we need to find a way to give back. And I loved podcasts. So I was like, why not? I'll grab a microphone, figure this out. I've had a lot of mentors along the way here that have taught me a little bit here and a little bit there to try and figure things out. But, between this and my website, trying to have resources, I'm just trying to be one person sharing some information, because I just don't know when one episode is going to hit somebody and they're going to, well, you're talking about finances earlier. Does it hit somebody and be like, you know what, I need to get my finances under control. I need to look at it from a different perspective, and then they can take the actionable steps to go out there and make it happen. Or take a needle out of their arm, put the gun down, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely, man. What's funny is my wife was doing this 75 hard challenge, and she completed it. They killed it. And then she did also the phase 1 challenge, which was another 30 days. And now after that one, you got to wait like 30 days. So she's like halfway through the waiting period, and she's going to like finish this whole, what's called the Live Hard challenge. Some guy out there. And she just like crushed it. She just kept pushing at it and did it. And that's taking those steps, right? It was beautiful to watch. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying, man. Like really kind of finding your passion and finding what drives you is important.
Yep. And it's it's going to hit everybody at a different point. I've told people before, shoot, I don't think I figured out life until I was 30. I'd been out of the military for a couple of years by that point in time. You just kind of start figuring out adulthood and life and direction and where you're going to go. And I really had no clue until I was about 30. That was a few years ago. I'm in my mid-30s now. I'll leave it at that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for those who didn't realize why I shared that. It's because Keith was talking about doing his podcast and about people picking this up. And the reason I shared that about my wife was that I never shared anything until I saw her killing this and then sharing it and then seeing people go, oh, wow, I could do that. Just like Keith was saying, we talked about finances. Maybe somebody's going to see this and go, oh, you know what? I could do that too. And that's what I love about, I used to be the same way. I used to not want to share my journey or share that. And I think I've avoided podcasts for a while because of that. I feel like, do I really need to share? Is it bragging? But then as I see people get inspired, and then I feel like, well, then maybe I have a responsibility to share, right? Like,
yeah, because there's other people. I mean, you're at a certain point in your career, over the timeline of your whole life. Who knows where you're at, but there's other people that are behind you. There's people that are ahead of you. And when it comes to podcasts and sharing your story, I don't know what next year brings. Maybe I have you on next year, or maybe you're on somebody else's podcast next year. And then you look back and you're like, wow, man, I've grown so much since that point.
Oh man.
It serves as that benchmark of like, this is where I am today. and next time you'll be able to look back and be like, wow, that helps me measure the growth.
So I went back and looked at a podcast I did with Tommy Chase like a long time ago. It was like his first one, and I was kind of like a trial guest. I was like number 2, and I watched and I was like, oh man, I wonder if I've evolved since then. I think I have.
I think everybody does. I can tell you I do after every episode, is I go back and figure out.
Oh, excuse me, Keith.
What works better.
Sorry, son.
Or wait for him to come back. You can check out his website, www.don'tbenasty.com, if you want to check out some of his soaps. There's some pretty awesome soaps and a handful of different flavors. I'll try and get him to tell us what flavors he's actually got out there right now, because they're all kind of small batch, kind of custom made.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, I was just giving you a good plug for your website there, man. I said I would let you kind of let us know what you're actually making right now for your soap. What you got out there right now? What flavors?
Oh, right now,
like an orange sage or something.
Right now, orange sage, pink grapefruit, eucalyptus mint, and by the end of the, hopefully by middle of the month, I'll have a lavender hemp Java. I'm calling it, which is just going to be a lavender essential oil. It's going to be a hemp base. And I'm going to put coffee grounds for the exfoliator. So it should be kind of
interesting. That's cool.
Yeah,
I'll pick up one of those.
That it might evolve because I got to mix in the coffee. I've done a couple of them, and I used. And I have to try it again with actual spent coffee grounds. Like the first 2 I did, I don't think I brewed the coffee long enough.
That's part of the journey, man. Trial and error.
Yeah, well, you have to brew the coffee first, because if not, the color seeps into the soap, and it looks it looked kind of weird. It was like this green clearish bar, and then when you looked at it, it had like these brown kind of like growths inside of it, which was just where the coffee grounds were, and then the coffee seeping into the soap. It looked cool, but it was kind of like, I don't know if people are gonna like it.
Yeah, well, you got to think about the end consumer, right? They're going to look at it and be like, this is kind of funny or something wrong. But yeah, it's all about trial and error when you're making something by hand.
Yeah, my son said
part of the journey.
My son said they felt fine when he used it. It looks funny, but it feels good.
So, well, that's good. That gives you a stepping stone. So, once again, for everybody watching, don'tbenasty.com is where you can find those. We'll go ahead and wrap up here, Joe, but I got 3 questions for you to finish this off. I ask everybody these 3 questions. So what piece of advice would you have for somebody looking to transition out of the military today?
Do a when you go in there, take your medical record and when you're going through your transition and really validate, like look at your health, all of your stuff, and do if you have any service issues, make sure you do your claim pre-separation. Like if you have the opportunity to do a pre-separation VA claim, do it before you get out. Don't wait till you get out and then try to do it. That's 1. 2, don't drop your pack completely. The things that made you successful in the military are going to make you successful out. Your time management, your planning. Keep your green monster if you had one. If this was your Bible when you were in, find something that's exactly the same that you can use and still use it. 3, stay in contact with your brothers and sisters.
I think that's a huge one right there. Contact and connections.
Contact. You don't have to have long conversations. Set up an SOP that says, hey man, if you call me, I'll at least answer and say, hey, I'm either busy or I'm doing something. And also preempt it. Tell them, hey, look, we don't have to have 2-hour calls. If I call and you want to talk, we can talk for let's do a time limit. Hey, you know what? I got 5 minutes. Because I think a lot of times we feel like, at least for me early on, and me and a buddy of mine actually started employing this, and we actually talk way more now. Is that we said, hey, if you only got 5 minutes, you only got 5 minutes. Just call for 5 minutes. He's like, we don't have to feel the need to talk for 2 hours. Like, because I think a lot of times we feel like, oh man, I haven't talked to so and so in like 3 months. I don't know what to say. Just say, hey, what's going on, man?
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be deep. Just a check in.
But and the more frequently, the better, because they're going to expect it. And it makes those conversations go a little bit smoother as you get to know a little bit more what's going on in their life and staying on top of it. So, Good ones, darn good ones. How about advice for somebody who might be looking to join the military?
Do your research, man. Like research what the jobs are, what they entail, what the guy is offering you. Do your own research. Don't look. I know recruiters have a job to do, and they're not. Look, I don't think they'll lie to you, but they won't give you all of the information.
Well, they also don't know every job. They know every job that's available, but they don't know the intimacies of every job. So,
yeah. If your idea is to join the military to get a college degree, then I would suggest join the reserves and get your degree as you serve. And active duty guys tend to you'll get more done if you had enlisted time as an officer. That's just in my what I've noticed. And it's not I'm not saying that officers that weren't prior enlisted weren't locked on, because I've had some fucking badass officers that were. But if you had prior service as an enlisted guy and you're a Mustang, you get the benefit of the doubt, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I had some officers that loved and respected, but some of those Mustangs, man, I'd run through a wall for.
Yeah,
they just knew. Well, and not only were they relatable, they actually knew your job because they had done it. They had gone through the ranks, and now they're on the other side, kind of looking at it from that higher up angle. So,
if you don't want to do, if you don't want to do that, but you want to be like an officer, you want to be an officer job, you want to get like the officer recognition, I would recommend being a warrant officer. Those guys are badass.
If you can find one.
Warrant officer programs are badass.
Yeah, no, we didn't have any Air Force, but from what I understand, sometimes it's kind of hard to find a warrant officer. Sometimes
it is. You got to be in the good old boy club. But
I've heard that they are a very tight knit group. Is from what I've heard. So last question before we wrap up, give you an opportunity to, I guess not really a question, but what organizations would you like to give a shout out to that are doing good things in the veteran community?
Oh man, Combined Arms right now. Combined Arms. I've been having this tug for this organization. It's a nonprofit here in the greater Houston area called Combined Arms, I just like the premise. It reminds me of what Stephen and Lane are talking about as a HAB, but they're actually a nonprofit. They facilitated like a location where they brought in like 10 other nonprofits, and they're all under one roof, and they just it's like a combined arm exercise, right? So Combined Arms is a really good one. Bunker Labs, oh man, another great organization I'd like to give a shout out to that helps veterans. Matter of fact, I'm even wearing a Bunker Lab shirt. This is I was part of a veterans in residency program, which is amazing. I think our cohort kind of we got the short end of the stick because it happened during a pandemic, and we weren't able to utilize a lot of the services and things that they do. But if they bring that program back and you're thinking of doing it, look them up and sign up, because there was some resources in there that were amazing. And then again, you build a community there too. And what's great about it is they partnered with WeWorks when I did it. And I actually, if we would have had the opportunity, I had access to every WeWorks location in the United States. Like literally we had actually started a plan that we were going to do a tour of Maxwell Soaps. Was going to do a tour, and we were going to start on the East Coast WeWorks and work our way west. But the pandemic happened, and then,
always put a damper on everybody's plans.
Yeah. But that's okay. We're going to improvise, and that's going to happen again, because I got my eye on this short bus to do have and soap missions and farm missions and just a bunch of other stuff. So,
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
that could be really, really helpful. Bunker
yeah,
Labs.
I'll share that later. Like, I mean, people will know about the bus shortly. It's going to be a big thing.
Awesome. Well, a little thing, right? You said it's a small bus, right?
Yeah, it's a short bus. You have to wear a helmet when you come.
You have to wear a helmet. Okay, all right. Well, it depends on who's driving. I might want to wear one anyway.
I might even put on there Uncle Sam's Misguided Children's Bus. So
there you go. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, Joe. I love and appreciate we finally got together to do this. Don'tBeNasty.com is the website. Go get your soaps, everybody. They're awesome, and maybe come up with a new flavor soon. I know not flavor. Style combination. The flavor was really bad.
Well, I mean,
not be eating soaps.
Also, in the future is planned a liquid soap too. So
ooh, nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think eventually, if we really want to grow and be able to support more people, that we really need to get into a B&B kind of thing. We need to find some B&B stuff, and I think a lot of the brick and mortar places are going to be they're probably going to want liquid soap.
That's a good point. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
And then, like I said earlier in the podcast, I was talking about hand wash stations for the homeless, and I think a liquid soap would be good for those too. So
probably easier than getting them all their own bar of soap. Yeah, definitely more bang for your buck, especially when you're dealing with homeless people. And we know resources are sometimes pretty darn limited.
I mean, like I said, it's just easier to source. It's easier to keep it out there, set it up, and then.
Exactly.
Because hey, you know what? Like, gear adrift is a gift. If I left bar soap at the little hand wash station, it's going to disappear, and then not everybody gets to use it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was thinking is more economical than getting everybody their own soap, because it's one jug that's attached or however all that stuff works versus somebody walking off with soap, and then what good is washing your hands without soap, right?
Right.
You're still nasty.
Hey Keith, I had a great time. This has been awesome. Let's do this again. I'm going to take you up on your offer. Let's do this again in 1 year.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right, brother.
Absolutely. Well, before you leave, I don't know if you want to drop any like your slogan. I'll let you say it. I've said don't be nasty a few times.
Yeah, don't be nasty, man. Don't be nasty. Get out there and participate. And,
absolutely.
Get a bar of soap too.
Yep. Don't forget your bar of soap. All right. Thanks, Joe.